tea can be a luxury, a wonderful ingredient, and not just a bitter brew for virtuous people. So I'm here at the Beefeater Distillery with the master distiller, Desmond Payne.
So juniper is the key ingredient in all gin. If we get the juniper right, then we've got a good chance of getting the gin right. This is the time of year when we're choosing the crop. We've just looked at about 130 samples of juniper berries.
Wow.
We've just made our decision for this year, and we've bought 4 of them as a blend to get consistent style. So these are juniper berries. They grow wild, they're not cultivated. If I crush those, we're talking about distillers' noses, but the thumb is equally important in this business.
A distiller's thumb.
A distiller's thumb, here we go. You can see there's quite a lot of oil, and if you smell that, that really is gin, isn't it?
Gorgeous,
or the key flavour in gin.
Yes.
To make gin, you add the alcohol to a traditional onion-shaped pot still, and then you weigh out all the botanicals that are used in your recipe. But it's about creating a balance, like a good cocktail. And then you redistill that spirit in the presence of the botanicals, and that brings the flavour. I got the call, I suppose, a couple of years ago to develop a new gin for Beefeater. I've been making somebody else's recipe for the last 40 years as that sort of guardian, custodian. And I thought, great, it's now my turn to make my own gin, which is a great challenge and a great honour. And I thought, what do I do? And my mind went back about 4 or 5 years when I was travelling in the Far East in Japan. And after a hard day's work, I used to enjoy relaxing with my favourite gin and tonic. It was more to gin than gin and tonic. So the soft drinks that people were drinking were things like iced lemon tea and things like that. So I was using that as an alternative to tonic and realised that the tea notes were very complementary to the gin. So tea and gin works, I'd established that fact. So why not use tea as a botanical in the distillation process rather than a mixer at the end? When I was looking at different teas to decide which I would use in the gin, was to take a whole range of different teas, and I treated tea as a botanical, same as juniper or anything else.
The jasmine doesn't really come through.
No, it doesn't. I think most people drink gin with something else. Yeah. And it's then up to people like Nick Strangeway who can create cocktails with it that will bring out the nuances and finer flavours and sort of present them in a different way by adding something else. It might be a simple syrup of rhubarb or whatever is made that day. Yes. And it just creates a new balance in a new place, and that's what's so exciting about it, because the potential range of styles is endless. It's absolutely infinite.
I'm here at Hick Soho to meet Nick Strangeway, who's going to explain a little bit about how tea is used in cocktails. And I work with some chefs who use tea in their cooking, but Nick is the chef of the cocktail world, and he's going to explain a little bit about how tea is used and how it can make the most wonderfully indulgent and delicious cocktails.
We were looking for drinks that complemented gin, and the Earl Grey was something that really, really worked with. The bergamot oil really picks out the citrus notes in the gin, and basically it's a combination of gin and sweet vermouth rather than dry vermouth. In this particular example, we're going to add in some maraschino and some Peychaud bitters and some Angostura bitters, so it's almost the definition of a cocktail. The first thing we need to do is get some of the Tregothlan Earl Grey tea. Next, we'll get 35 millilitres of the Beefeater 24. And we'll just pour it over it, just to give it a short infusion.
And the alcohol will draw the flavour out of the tea quite quickly, won't it?
Yeah.
That's a mistake that's quite commonly made when people are using tea as an ingredient, that they over-infuse it. They think, a long period of time in water will bring out lots of flavour. But actually, if you use a high leaf-to-water ratio or leaf-to-alcohol ratio, you get lots of intense flavour very quickly, and then you don't need to do it for very long.
The next ingredient, we're going to add in some vermouth. So It's actually French sweet vermouth du Bonnet. Equal quantities to the gin. Some maraschino, we're going to add in 5 ml per drink. So I'm going to make 2 drinks in this. Okay, so we're going to add in 2. Then the final element, a little dash of Angostura bitters. And a little dash of Peychaud bitters. Then I'm going to stir it on ice.
Well, I can hardly wait for you to hand it over.
Right, the final thing is a little twist of lemon. Which will just pick out that Earl Grey characteristic. And then you just pick up that Earl Grey on the back, on the palate. It really complements the vermouth and the gin beautifully.
What I love about your cocktails, Nick, is that it's not very sugary, it's not a sweet thing. Every single flavour is perfectly balanced.